What's going on, everybody? It's your boy M.I.C back in the building with yet another YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about Big Tekken, all right? And what exactly is Big Tekken? Now, in a prior video, we discussed Small Tekken, which can be seen by clicking on the link on the top right-hand corner, right over there. And that explained to us what Small Tekken is, how to use it, and what the purpose of Small Tekken is. Well, today we'll be discussing Big Tekken, what it is, why it's important, when to use it, and how to set it up. Also, how to beat it. So as we get into this discussion, make sure that you hit that like, that subscribe, that notification bell, because we will be having other topics like these that will be coming up on the channel. You don't want to miss out on any of that. And of course, make sure that you join down in the comment section and discuss or ask any questions that you may have about concepts that you learned here today. But let's get into it, get our hands dirty, get our feet wet, all right? So what exactly is Big Tekken, all right? You might hear this term being used, or you may have never heard the term, but a lot of people have heard the term Small Tekken. Well, if there's a Small Tekken, that means there at least has to be some other variation of Tekken, correct? Well, we're gonna call it Big Tekken, all right? So what does this exactly entail? What all is incorporated in Big Tekken? Well, the working definition we're gonna be using today is gonna be the use of high risk, high reward, or high damaging options. This usually consists of offense that leads to knockdowns or combos or combo opportunities via natural hit or counter hit. This can also include natural combo strings that don't gel or are highly unsafe. That's -12 or greater for standing opponents and -14 or greater for crouching situations, right? Any move above the Tekken frame window for Small Tekken are also considered to be Big Tekken, right? And lastly, and most importantly, Big Tekken can be thought of as high committal Tekken, all right? So what exactly does Big Tekken look like, right? Well, you have things like Magic 4, you have King's back 1 or Steve's back 1. In this case, you have Jack, who has forward 2 in the forward 4, right? These are fast, high attacks that offer a lot of damage on counter hits, sometimes giving combos, sometimes like this, where it's giving you a knockdown into a follow-up for high damage. The reason that this is going to be considered high commitment is because it is a high move, which means you're taking the risk of it getting ducked, often getting stepped, crushed, just anything could happen. If that person decides to do anything besides attack or block, you're very much going to be on the hook and could possibly lose a lot of life going for that option, right? Other things that it includes is things like 4-4-1, where it's going to give you a knockdown on normal hit, right? This is not something you would consider Small Tekken. This would be very Big Tekken, right? Because of what you're getting off of the move. Also, moves that would be like down forward 2, -14, right? So that's beyond our threshold for what we consider okay to be considered Small Tekken, right? You are being a little bit overly committed when you start doing moves that are -14. Some people on the cast can even launch opponents doing things that are -14. And a lot of characters can knock you on your ass if you happen to do something that's -12. So, only very rare situations you get knocked down at -10. And typically, you're not going to have too much of that happening unless you're playing Big Tekken, right? Another example of this could be something like down forward 1-2 or down forward 1-2, 1-2, the whole string series, right? And the reason that this would be considered Big Tekken is because after that, you can duck the second part. It's a mid into a high. So because it's a mid into a high, and every other part is high, and if you finish it, it's -16, 18, -18, right? So you're talking about being punished for finishing the move. If you even attempt to try to mix with it a little bit, if they decide to duck it, you're possibly going to get launched at any part of this move beyond the initial startup, which is down 4-1, correct? Another thing is sweeps, things like the debugger, things like planting the seeds. These are things that are high usage. You know, they give you high damage, high reward, but they're very unsafe on block. And you know, they do fall into the category of Big Tekken, right? They give you offer a knockdown on normal hit. These are not things that you want to just kind of rely on, but they can be used. Now, something you wouldn't think to be Big Tekken, but is Big Tekken, is when moves have like guaranteed strings, but there are holes in the strings, right? So we look at that right there, that's back 3-2. This is a mid into a high. Now it's guaranteed on normal hit, but if the opponent blocks the back 3 and you do the 1, you do the 2, they have the ability to duck you and launch you. So you have to commit, you know, with that 1. And if you go with that committal, that's high commitment, okay? You might as well put a wedding ring on and go ahead and marry that thing, because you have decided to make that decision a permanent decision. And it could cost you everything just for a little bit of damage, right? Another thing that a lot of people might not take as a high committal thing is grabbing, right? Grabbing is Big Tekken. Why? Because there's so many ways to defeat the grab. Not only do they have the capability of breaking the throw, but they could duck the throw, they could attack you out of the throw, they could jump out of the throw unless you have certain characters who happen to have certain specialty attributes about their grab. But for the most part, going for a grab is a high committal option. Now, why is it important to have Big Tekken? Well, let's look at it like this. Big Tekken is important because it limits predictability. Now, if you're doing small Tekken is very much pokey. What do we say? It has a lot of movement involved. But you're very limited in what your options can be when you're doing small Tekken. Because small Tekken in a vacuum is very good, but it's not always the most rewarding, right? And when you only have so many options, a lot of the time small Tekken can beat a lot of other small Tekken, right? And you need to have something that can combat that, you know, ability to just guess what you're going to do all the time. So this, in turn, when you have the ability to like walk up on somebody and do this, or walk up on somebody and, you know, down forward to them, like these are things that are going to make you less predictable, right? As opposed to just doing what might work with this and this, but maybe a movement option might be both of those options. And so you have to go and expand your move list a little bit more. You know, you might have to do something like this in order to cover bases that normally small Tekken will not cover, right? Also, Big Tekken helps to create panic in the opponent, which is the opposite of small Tekken. So if you go back and watch that video, we talked about how small Tekken causes the opponent to freeze up, right? Well, Big Tekken does the opposite, right? Big Tekken, if somebody's coming in your face and they're doing moves like this and they're doing moves like this, you're gonna have to keep guessing in between all of this stuff here. After a while, you might have the defenses, but you're not going to want to have to block all that stuff. And believe me, your opponent doesn't want to have to block all that either. So what'll end up happening is they will start becoming afraid and start panicking, right? And this right here is definitely a way to get them to swing like crazy, right? Now, when do you want to use Big Tekken? Well, first, going back to our last point, Big Tekken is best used against opponents that are highly defensive, right? So if somebody's only blocking all day long, all they want to do is block, right? You run up in their face, you get them the big stuff. Now you could poke and do something like this, right? And this will be effective, to an extent, but it's much more effective when you know that they're not going to swing to go for these moves that may be bigger in frames or have more frames to them, who have stranger hitboxes that are more rewarding on hit. These are the times that you want to use that opportunity to go in and try to really press the issue with your Big Tekken. Also, Big Tekken can be a useful tool in punishing predictable offense. So when we're talking about getting our opponents to swing, right, because we're running up, we're doing things like this. We're running up and we're doing big moves like this, right? Well, you can use this to punish offense that becomes very predictable. So let's say I know that every time I jab, or I do a 1-2, a 2-1, somebody jabs me back. Well, if I know that that's what they're going to do, then I can say, okay, I'm going to do 2-1, and I'm going to do down both punches. Right? Now, it's a 27 frame move, so it's very slow. But if I know that they're going to try to jab me back, I can punish them greatly by using Big Tekken, right? Or I could do the same thing and say, oh, okay, I'm going to go for the debugger, right? Because typically, maybe they can see this and react to it, but if I know what their offense is, I have ways of punishing their offense in a major way, right? Not to mention, you have the ability to do whiff punishment, and of course, finishing strings is something that you might not think about, but that right there is a part of Big Tekken, right? Because if I know that they are going to be pressing a button after I do a string, let's say I do down for a 1-1, right? Not guaranteed at all, correct? Not guaranteed at all. But let's say I know that they're going to swing. I can get them to block the first part and punish them by swinging, using the second portion of the move and getting my big combo, right? My counter hit combo. So that is another use for Big Tekken and how it is used in the playfield. Now, how do we set up Big Tekken? Well, the most effective way to set up Big Tekken is using small Tekken to freeze our opponents and make them desire to be more defensive, right? Because that takes us back to why it is important in the first place and when we use it, right? If we use our small Tekken to get them frozen where they don't want to swing, they are just kind of trying to move and trying to read and figure out what you want to do. Once you have them in a place where small Tekken has froze them up long enough that you can go in for Big Tekken, it's prime time to go in and use your Big Tekken skills, all right? This is why you have things like a mission of going in and they do a hell sweep once they get you frozen long enough, right? You can also use Big Tekken as a good tool against opponents that are in severe frame disadvantage. So let's say that an opponent does a move and they're minus, 8 or 9 or something. Or let's say that there's Oki involved, a tech roll. Like in these situations, they don't have a lot of frames or the frame ability to really challenge a lot. If they are challenging stuff, then that means you're either doing things too slow or that they're wilding out and they're looking to be countered. And then you can go back to using smaller things to check them, like small Tekken, right? But once you have somebody in frame disadvantage or severe frame disadvantage, this is a great time to go for your Big Tekken mix-ups. If you had something like this or this on Wake Up, they don't have the opportunity to do anything, so they have to tech roll and just choose the block. And then there you're getting your mix-ups in, and you're playing Big Tekken the way it needs to be played. So how exactly are we supposed to beat Big Tekken if it's being used against us? Well, simply put, you use small Tekken, right? You can use your pokes, your movement, all these different things that are allowing you to space out and create angst in your opponent, or create a situation where they have to think twice about constantly coming in doing moves like this or coming in and doing moves like this. You may even be able to step, or you may be able to interrupt and counter hit them back with small Tekken of your own, right? And then of course that will lead you to big Tekken that you get to drive your offense by. Essentially what you want to do is you want to kind of drive from the passenger side. If you want to know what that looks like in real time, there's a video right up here in the corner you can check out where I was playing the Tekken 8 CVT, and you can see there where I go in and I talk about how I am driving the ship or driving from the passenger side while playing against people in real time. And if you want to learn how to do all this stuff and put it all together, they have a place you can come to and learn just these types of things and get well equipped for playing Tekken, especially Tekken 8 coming up. And that is by signing up over at tknhouseent.com/TTU. That's Tekken Tech University. And there we go through and I teach people how to play people you can go from being a good player to a great player, whether it be learning about fundamentals or learning about more intricate details in the Tekken system that you may not be aware of or may not know exactly how to implement. But with that being said, that brings this video to a close, and of course, that means we gotta close down shop, all right? But y'all already know what it is, man. It's your boy M.I.C. In the realm of the real, where only the real can chill. Until next time, peace.